I bought this lot of 8 broken Nintendo Switches on eBay, but the question is, number 1, can I fix them? And number 2, can I make money on them? I paid $65 each for these, so I got a great deal on them, but the real question is, are they going to be fixable? They have various problems. I don't actually know what most of them are yet. I just got them out of the box. So let's take a look at each one and see if we can figure out what the problem is with them. Starting with number 1. Clearly we see it's going to need at least a new digitizer. Let's check the charge port. When I look closely into the charge port, I see bent pins and they're touching all over, so we know for sure this one needs a charge port. So let's take a look at number 2. It looks like we got some scratches. It looks like a lot of this is just some sort of adhesive that we can probably get off, and I do see there is a screen protector on this, so hopefully the digitizer on this one is good. And the charge port itself looks fine. Since the charge port looks fine, we're going to plug in a USB-C cable so we can see how it's charging or whether it's charging at all. We got 0.4 amps. With a discharged battery, this should normally say 0.46, and now it's going to 0.3. So that problem could be various things on the motherboard, so we're going to get this one taken apart and let's check it out. This one also does have a bit of a bend in it, as you can see right there. So when we go to sell this one, if I don't use this motherboard in a different case or something, we will have to take a little bit less for that. The first thing we need to do is take these screws off. These are tri-wing screws, and I'll be using a Y00. Now all 8 of these consoles do have the kickstand missing, and it didn't say that in the auction, but when I contacted the seller, they said they would give me some money off, so they did actually give me enough to pay for new kickstands. So I will be using a Phillips 00 for the rest of these Phillips screws. Now with all those screws removed, we can remove this back case. Now we need to remove all of these silver screws. I'm going to start with the memory card reader. Once those screws are off, we can lift the back metal plate. And here we go. The first thing I see is liquid damage. So this one, and it looks like somebody's already been into it. We've got a loose ribbon cable there. So we're gonna have to check all the ribbon cables. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you guys can see the liquid damage a little better. So you can see we got liquid damage here, all along here, and a little bit here. It looks like most of it is isolated to this side, so I'm gonna need to take this motherboard out and check the other side. Hopefully this one will just need a good cleaning and then it'll work again, but there's no way to know until we actually get it all apart and clean off all this liquid damage. If you haven't figured it out yet, I'm going to go through and diagnose each one of these, and then after that we will get to the repairs. This one has a faulty charge port, so we won't know what else might be wrong until we fix that. And for number 4 also has a faulty charge port. Looking at it right here though, it looks like there might be some liquid damage here as well, so I'm going to take off this back plate and check that out. And let's have a look. Amazingly, I don't see really any liquid damage. So we may have lucked out on this one. We may just need to replace the charge port. So we'll get that written on the front and we'll move on to number 5. And looking at number 5, this one's very easy to see. Faulty charge port, all the pins are all mashed up in there. So that's where we need to start with number 5 as well. Here we go with number 6. Checking the charge port on number 6, the charge port is for sure faulty. And let's look at number 7. The first thing I see with number 7 is it's bent. We've got quite the bend here. Hopefully the motherboard's good, but we won't know for sure until we get looking at it. The charge port initially looks fine from what I can see, so I'm going to plug it into a charger and see what it does. 0.31, and it just stays at 0.31. So that could be various things on the motherboard. We'll have to take this one apart and start checking it out. And here we go. Let's see how bad it is. Okay, so the worst news is that it looks like it's bent right here mainly. That's right where one of the main chips are for this. So I'm gonna guess that this motherboard is not gonna be fixable. I don't know for sure yet, but I just don't see how a console can be that bent and still have that chip intact. Most likely there's cracks inside the chip, and probably the solder balls attaching it to the motherboard are faulty. But the good news is it's got lots of good parts other than that, so if nothing else, we can use this as a parts console to fix some of the other ones. And here we have the last one, number 8. So just from looking with my eyes, I don't see anything wrong with the charge port, so I'm gonna plug it in and see what it does. And this one is just not charging at all, 0 amps. So let's take the back off of this one and see if we can figure out why it's not charging at all. Okay, let's see what number 8 has in store for us. First thing I notice right offhand, this is the sticker that's supposed to tell you if there's been liquid damage. Usually this is full of little red dots. You can see the whole thing is turned pink. That means there's been liquid in here. And I can see right offhand that the charge chip right here has some liquid damage there. Well, let me get you zoomed in so you can see it. And there we go, we got liquid damage there and there. I'm gonna do a quick test on this fuse to see if the fuse is good. My multimeter is just set to make a noise if there is no resistance. And there we go, we have 0 ohms on that. So for sure, this area needs to be cleaned. Most likely this chip needs to be replaced. And I am seeing over here, now that I look, right over here, we've got some liquid damage as well. So I'm gonna need to check this ribbon cable and this connector, see if we can just clean that off or if there's more damage there. I do also see some corrosion there. And then I'll need to flip this board over to see what the other side looks like. And just if you're wondering, this is the fuse for the charge port. If you get 0 amps when you check the USB tester that I use, then the first thing you want to check is this fuse. I've seen very few where the fuse is blown, but every once in a while that is the problem. Now that we have these 8 Nintendo Switches diagnosed, let me know in the comment section how many you think I'm going to be able to fix and whether I'll be able to make any money on this lot. I'm going to make a bold statement and say that I can fix 6 out of the 8 and I will be able to make money on this lot. I'm going to start by replacing the charge ports on these 4 and then any of the other consoles that need charge ports, and then we can test them further to see if there's any other problems. I'll fix the first charge port on camera, and then for the sake of time, I'll just replace the others off camera so this video doesn't get to be an hour long. Now I've got all those charge ports replaced, I'm going to take you through and show you how I make sure there's no other problems. So I always test this cap right here to see if there's any shorts to ground. So that's what I'm going to do next. So that is the ground side, and this is the chip side. So this is not shorted, so that's good news. When this is shorted, it usually means there's another chip that's bad. Sometimes this chip is bad. Sometimes this chip is bad. This is at least what I call the video chip. Or sometimes it can also be other things, but those are the 2 most common. But unfortunately also sometimes the main chip over here can also be shorted. So when when this little cap right here is shorted, it indicates there's other problems on the motherboard. For this one, it is not shorted, so I'm going to assume that everything's fine. So what I'm going to do is plug in a known good battery, and then I'm going to plug in a charge cable to this, and we'll see if it's charging normally. So here we have a known good battery. I'm going to plug that in there. Now we're going to plug in the charger. 0.4 amps. $1.79. Okay. Normally it will say 0.46 and this will go to 1.44 or so. So that seems like it's charging a bit high, but I don't know that that's necessarily a problem. I like to flip this around just to verify my readings. So this battery is also fully charged or close to fully charged. It's not drained, so it's going to do the fast charging on this battery. When I plug it back into the original console itself, that battery is going to be drained, so this should say 0.46 or right in that range. Now that we've done that testing, let's put it back into the console and let's see what it says then. That's put together enough for us to test it, so I'm going to put the known good battery in right here, and then I'll see if it'll turn on. Okay, the good news is that it turns on. The bad news is it looks like it's going to need an LCD as well. So digitizer and LCD on this one too. Okay, so the other thing we need to test is if this battery seems to be doing what it's supposed to. So I'm going to flip it around and we'll plug in a charger into this port and then we'll see if the battery's charging as it should. Showing 0.40, which is a little low. Normally it'll show 0.46. But we do have what would be the charge indicator on the screen right there. So I think this one is fixed. We'll know for sure once we get the LCD and digitizer replaced. And here we have number 5. We've replaced the charge port. It seems to work normally with the good battery, so we need to check the display and see if that is working. Here we show it charging not normally. Since this one works with a known good battery, we might have a battery issue here. So let's plug that known good battery in real quick again and see what that does. Okay, we have the battery in that we know is good. Let's try and turn it on first and see if there's any display. Okay, we do have some lines on the screen, so we do have a display. So we also know the LCD is bad. The digitizer is definitely working. All right, now, let's plug this in and see how it charges. 1.78, so that seems to indicate we may also have a bad battery. With the known good battery, it charges normally. With the other battery that came with it, it does not charge normally. So we'll see if we get any of these others that can't be fixed, and maybe we can just swap one of those batteries into this one. And for number 6, replace the charge port. And then I found that it charged at 0.09. I then replaced the charge chip because at 0.09, that's not a normal charge reading. That was with the known good battery. So now after I replace the charge chip, it does charge normally with the known good battery. So we're going to check the display and we're going to make sure it charges normally with the battery that's in it right now. All right, let's see what we get. 0.38, which seems kind of low, but it actually does show on the screen that it's charging there. So the good news is that the screen works and it seems to be charging normally. To test this for sure, I'll need to leave this charger on it for probably several hours, maybe even overnight, just to make sure it'll fully charge up how it should. This one looks like it should be in pretty good shape though. And here is Nintendo Switch number 3. Replace the port and it seems to charge normally. Let's try it with the internal battery. Still showing 0. There we go, 0.4, okay. So we may just have it could be just a dirty connector in here. It might have gotten some flux on the pins, or who knows. I'll need to recheck that and clean it good, but it does seem to be charging normally. It also shows that it does have a good display as well. So this one may be well on its way to being fixed also. I will need to also put this on a charger and make sure that it fully charges the battery. Switch number 4, replace the charge port. The video chip was shorted as well. Now it charges normally with a good battery. Let's check the display with the internal battery and also the charging. So I've got 0.27, 0.22, but I see no display up here. 0.22 could be some sort of problem on the board, but let's flip it over. Let's put the known good battery in and then see what it does. And here it is with our known good battery. Let's see if it turns on first. Definitely have no display. Let's see if it charges. I did test it already once and it did charge. Okay, it is charging normally here, 1.8, 1.79. So we know it charges normally, but we still have no display. I'm gonna double check and see if any of these capacitors are shorted near the charge chip. These are definitely not shorted, so that's good news. Let's check these. Now here's a close-up of how I check this capacitor on the motherboard. This is I call it the main charge chip, but there's probably some official name for it. So this is the ground plane right here. There should be continuity here, and there is. And there should not be continuity on this side, and there is not. So that one is working correctly. I do like to check the other capacitors near these chips. So I don't see anything shorted here. This one, like I said, has no display at all. I might need to take this motherboard out and try changing the video chip on the other side of the board. That might fix the display issue. I also need to recheck the LCD cable and the digitizer cable. They look pretty good from what I can tell, but I need to recheck it all and just make sure. So that's as far as we're gonna go on this video today. Next week, I'm gonna be starting by working on these 3 consoles to see if there's any savable parts in them, if I can fix them, and if not, I'll use these parts for the other consoles. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'll be able to fix these, and let me know how many total you think I'll be able to fix and if I'll be able to make money on this lot of broken Nintendo Switches. Thanks again for watching, and have a good one.